Okay, Simin Kufnun Vav. If you see blood because of intercourse, believe it or not, this shaila comes up way more often than you would think. So Aleph, if a woman sees blood because of intercourse, even if it's not during the actual intercourse, she sees that night blood. She is allowed to go back to her husband a second time after she goes to mikvah. But we're concerned, even for that one time, that perhaps, because we were learning Vestas the last couple of days, which is that certain factors can cause a period to come. So here we're saying that we're concerned that maybe one of them, maybe intercourse is what causes a period. So you don't have to worry about that if it never happens, but at least initially. But once it happens once, then you have to be concerned. Shemira Lakain Belel Tfila. So then, if this happens on the mikvah night, when she's toivel, then you're going to need to separate mikvah night. Because we're concerned that maybe going to the mikvah together with intercourse, garmin la liroy's dam. Maybe it's going to cause her to see blood. B'shem atira bilel tefila shnia. Maybe on the second mikvah night she's going to see it. Shas tashmish mamish during the actual tashmish. Avalel tefila shlishis. But if the third mikvah night, ain't tzarich lifresh mishum deikar chashasha mishum atfila. The main concern was because of mikvah night. Even the tefila shnia loy rasa sulei chashina. Since the second time that she went to mikvah, she didn't see it. So then that's not a problem. Let's say she got a period the second night after mikvah. You'd have to separate the second night. Okay, this part doesn't happen so much. But basically, if it's at a time that you're not expecting a period, and then there's blood, so then we have to be concerned that at least temporarily we have to be concerned that intercourse caused the bleeding. And since now there's a negative in this woman, even if she has a set cycle, when she's going to be together the second time, she needs a bedika before and after tashmish. To be mavar if she doesn't see any more machmas tashmish. With Izara Isha, lasik miyad berefus. And the woman has to be careful to be Isaac immediately in refuus in order to see that maybe there's something wrong. And of course, if she actually sees blood during the actual intercourse, obviously you're not going to see it during intercourse, but you're going to feel it. Or pretty close to after intercourse. If this happens 3 times in a row, then you're in a big trap. And it's going to be very difficult that she can even stay married to her husband. Meaning, if 3 times in a row a woman has intercourse and then she sees blood that night, they have to get divorced. Because you can only be married if you have the ability to have intercourse. And now they can't have intercourse because we're afraid that it's causing her to get her period. That's a big rarity, but it did happen. It did happen. Now nowadays, the place can say, all you do is put them on. If something like this would happen, and there are certainly scenarios, I've had many, not myself, Baruch Hashem, but that where women did get their periods right after Tashmish or in middle of Tashmish. And what we do is we put them onto birth control, which will now usually fix the problem. Gimel, a woman that feels b'shas tashmish that she became tummy, she has to say immediately to her husband that she became tummy. So now you would think we just had this in Shavuos in the daf. So you would think if the woman tells the husband in the middle of intercourse that she's got her period, he would say, okay, he pull out ASAP. No, if you do that, then you're over on the Isser. But do not separate immediately with an erection. Because that's also hano. Pulling out is also hana, just like pushing in is. Ela yismech al yadav v'raglav. He should lean on his hands and his feet, v'lo not on her, v'yimali pachad, and he should fill himself with fear, ureses, al havera shabal yada, and he reses is also types of fear on the avera that came to him. Unfortunately, it came to him that his wife is in nida when he's inside her. And once the aver dies, which means he loses the erection, then he separates. Then you have to ask a Mayra Hara for a tshuva on the avera. Okay, Simin Kufnun Zayin din Kala Nechneses Lechupa Vaychesif. Isha Shehiv Mechina Zatzma Lersu and Tzricha Lisba Tchila Zayinikim. A woman who is preparing herself for marriage needs to count 7 clean days. Benchi Katana Shadayin Leirosa Dami Oilam, whether she's a Katana and she never saw blood. Benchi Zakena Shikvar Paska Milirais, whether she's a Zakena and she hasn't gotten a period forever, whatever, for years, because of the love that's building up for the marriage, perhaps a drop of blood will get lost and be never. That's why we think that they're considered nida mamish. And even after they count 7 clean days, she should check herself every day until the mikvah. And after the mikvah ad be'ilas mitzvah, she has to check herself once a day. My father was into that this is the many poskim that say you don't have to check every day. So you have to ask a Shiloh exactly how that goes on. But it's an interesting thing because you have a woman who's in her 60s, maybe they haven't had a period in 10 years, and they have to go to the mikvah before, and she went to mikvah, after her last period, and then they're getting married, so they have to go to the mikveh anyways because we're afraid of this dam chimud. Even though it doesn't seem like this man say you have any of that dam chimud, but that's what it is, and that's where some say the minig of the chassan and kala not seeing each other for the week before the wedding comes from this, because if the chassan and kala see each other, so there's a buildup of love, and you don't want her to stain. So you don't want her because then she'll be a chupas nida. It's a little stretch to say that, but that seems to be the only halachic justification for this concept of the chassan and kala not seeing each other for a week before. Philosophically or whatever, not philosophically, but hashkafically, it might be a good idea for them not to see each other, but there's no real halachic source for that. Okay, base and nitva nasu machmas eza sibo. If the Nesuin gets pushed off for whatever reason. This is in Yana Diyama. This is happening in Eretz Yisrael right now, unfortunately. So the woman, the Kala, and that's why, I don't know if you've heard all the stories of the different things that went on in Eretz Yisrael. You really try your hardest not to push off the wedding. Even if you have to end up making the wedding with a minion outside the house, then you do that. Part of the reason is because of the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch is saying here. If they push off the marriage for whatever reason, let's say bombings, and then they decide, okay, we're getting married in a month. Even if she already counted Shiva Nikim, she needs a new Shiva Nikim. Since there's a new love that builds up on the new wedding date. Even if she checks herself all the days in between, doesn't help. But if it wasn't a complete pushing off, they just weren't able to work out the nedunya, the agreement with the.
I don't understand the line. If she checked every day, then she has it.
No, because it wasn't done l'shem shiva nekiyim.
What was it? It was just done to check it.
Yeah.
But there's no difference. She just has to do it with having it in mind.
You have a good point. You have a good point. But it's the way I understand it is because it's not a proper shiva nikim. You need a new hefsek tara, even though b'diavad that should work. So I'm not sure I don't remember if the poskim disagree with the Kitzur on this. But let's say the reason why they push off the wedding is because they couldn't come to an agreement on the finances. And then because of this, they pushed off the wedding until they could make a deal. Or on their own, they willingly pushed off the wedding from the day that they said it, and then they made it to a different day. Then ask then you have to figure out a design nikim, because there you didn't push off the wedding indefinitely; it was voluntarily pushed off, etc. Let's say, go figure this case, right? If they were fighting by the wedding and then they brought in a new chassan, right? Shita deloy mahani lazayin nikim, right? Imagine that you had the chassan's tish. The chassan says, "Forget it."
I needed a pinch hitter.
And exactly right, a pinch hitter. Okay, anybody any of chassan's friends here? Would you like to marry the kala? The kala says, "I'm not wasting all my money and canceling this wedding," right? You know, you got a lot of people that say, anyways, most men can marry most women. It makes no difference. Right, so the lemani lazayin nikim shesafar al das chasan acher. It will not help. You cannot do this. You're gonna have to wait a new shib nikim. And not only that, but even if just like a whole soap opera. So okay, so now she's gonna get married to a different guy, and then the old guy comes back and says, "Nah, I'll do it." Then she needs a new zayin nikim even with this new guy. Since she was Masiyach Das from marrying him, she needs to start again. Yeah, strange stuff that they had back then. You got to be careful not to marry a woman until she is pure. Fine, come on, fine. And if it's a desperate time, and you need to make the nesum when she's still tamei, or she got her period after the chuppah before they were together. There is no yichud whatsoever without somebody being there until she goes to mikvah. The minig is to have the chassan sleep with a boy, and a katana eitzel akala, and a katana eitzel akala. We don't do this anymore, right? We don't put the two. Well, you can put two kids, but you don't have to have them. We have the chassan and kala sleep in the same room, but the door should be unlocked or open a little bit, and they'll sleep in somebody else's apartment or something like that. Even during the day, they're not allowed to be together without a katan or a katana. Used to be much more common to have this before birth control pills. Now that most couples go on pills, and it's actually pretty rare to have a chuppahs nida. Right. They also need to be of the age where they'll understand if the chazan and kala start touching each other. But you can't be gedolah mamish because then the yitzhar is already, they're wearing the yitzhar because you have to be chayshish that the girl that's being the shomer is going to have a problem, right? Now the reason is, now normally there is no yichud when you have your wife with you. There's no yichud. So how come here we're worried about yichud with the girl that's being the shomer? Because we're afraid that since the wife was never with the husband, this guy might be the sweet talker and he might coerce both of them, right? So we can't have a girl too young, can't be too old. They got to be the average age, which they say is from the age 5, 6 to like 9. It makes no difference if it's a single guy marrying a widow, or if it's a single girl marrying a single girl. I'm sorry. It doesn't make a difference whether it's a single guy marrying, whichever. It's meaning it doesn't make a difference. It's first marriage, second marriage. And as long as a man has not been together with this woman ever, if Yitzhak are afraid that he is gonna, this Yitzhar is gonna overpower him, and it's also to have yichud without shmira. That's what we're going to, right? Yeah. Okay. Everybody should have a fine night, and we should hear Basuras Taivas.
Okay.